Hey, good evening and welcome to Henley Town Council full council meeting this evening. This is the first meeting of Henley Town full council that has ever been live streamed. We hope everyone that is watching enjoys the meeting. I would personally hope this would be the last live stream meeting, but unfortunately we are in the hands of the coronavirus, and that will for the time being dictate what the council will be doing in the future. Before the meeting starts, I would like to, as Mayor of Henley-on-Thames, to say a big thank you on behalf of the Town Council, not only to the NHS workers that have been working 12-hour shifts for the past few weeks, but also to a number of local volunteer organisations and individuals that have gone that extra mile to look after the needy of the town. I'm aware of the amount of extra work Nomad have been doing, carrying out delivering food parcels and caring for the people's personal problems. The Gainsborough Residents Association in distributing food throughout the town where needed. The COVID-19 teams of people that have been up in most rows and they're looking after the people in most need. The Henley Day Centre that are in constant touch with their members, looking after their welfare. The local shops that have donated produce for the food parcels, residents that are looking after their neighbours, town councillors that have been involved with any of the items I have mentioned. You know who you are, so I do not think I should single out specific names. With all the help out there, it just shows what a great town we live in and how proud we should be to be here. Whilst thanking people, I'd like to take the opportunity of thanking the town clerk and all his staff for keeping the office ticking over and offering help wherever they can for our residents. Finally, once again, thanks to the town clerk, Sheridan Jacqueline Edward, for organising the meeting and the agenda for tonight. Thank you for listening to me. I'll start the meeting with item 1, which is apologies for absence. What apologies do we have, town clerk?
We have apologies from Councillor Ian Clark.
Okay, is that the only one? Item 2, declaration of interest. Does any councillor have any interest on any items on the agenda this evening? No, okay, that's fine. Item 3, standing orders. To suspend standing orders 1a, that all meetings of the full council shall be held in the town hall, commencing at 7:30 p.m. unless the council otherwise decides at a previous meeting, to facilitate remote meetings. And I'd propose that we allow remote meetings in the future. So I'd propose that from the chair. Have I got a seconder?
I'll second that.
So Councillor Hamilton, all in favour of that? Okay, that's unanimous, thank you. Item 4, public participation. I believe we have one member of the public in the audience. You're allowed to speak between 3 or 4 minutes on any item on the agenda or any item to do with Henley-on-Thames. If you could make yourself known, please, and then ask your question.
I believe the member of the public wishing to attend hasn't logged in as yet.
Okay, I'll tell you what we do then. If he does turn up at a later date, we'll take this item later, if everybody's in agreement to that. Okay, let's move on then to item 5, which is to approve the minutes of the full council meeting on the 18th of February 2020. If I can take those as
so proposed.
Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Crook. All in favour of those? Thank you. Item 6, reports of committees. The first committee is the Planning Committee on the 25th of February 2020, and I also move those, and that's on pages 9 to 16. First item, 224, apologies for absence. 225, declaration of interest. 226, minutes. 227, public participation.
Councillor Crook had her hand up some time ago.
Councillor Crook.
Yeah, when you get to it, oh, you want to 2, no, you're not quite there yet, but 234 minute 234.
The idea is to stop me, Councillor Crook, when I get to it. Okay,
yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, 227, public participation, page 2. 228, plans new, which is on page 3, and on page 4, on page 5, on page 6, 229 objections and call-ins, 230 decision notices, on page 7, 231 permitted development applications, 232 appeal decisions, 233 withdrawn applications. On page 8, 234 network rail, 235.
Sorry.
234, Councillor Crook, yes.
The land disposal at Station Car Park, I think we should strongly object to this because for the loss of car park spaces, because I have noticed that there are a lot of people parking outside the marked bay at the bottom half of Station Car Park. It's a fire risk, so that will add to that. If half of that land, car park land, is taken away, we will lose so much car parking space that we need. So I think we need to object to this.
Well, we can object to it, but unfortunately it's private land and the landowner could obviously do what they wish to do. But I take your point there and we'll make a note of that. Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on that? No. 235, Oxfordshire County Council. Sorry, who was that?
It was me.
Yeah.
Now, on that sort of thing, if they were going to talk in what Donna was saying on the loss of car parking, if they were to suggest, oh, we put extra car parking in there, what I don't want to see is losing those coach parking spaces down the bottom.
Okay, we'll make a note of that, David. 236, Oxfordshire County Council, prohibition and restriction of waiting and permitted parking under Order 20 of the consultation. 237, Road Traffic Regulation Act 1984 and Bell Street. 238, Road Traffic Application Regulation Act 1984 on Duke Street. And with that, I so move. All in favour of those? Thank you. Next item is Town and Community. If I can call on Councillor Miller to move that. These minutes are on pages 7 to 19.
Yes, good evening. This is the minutes of the Town and Community meeting held on the 25th of February 2020. 73 apologies, 73 declarations of interest, 74 minutes, 75 public participation, 76 events committee, 77 the market working group, 78 marketplace.
76.
Councillor Hamilton, yeah. Councillor Hamilton.
Given that the VE Day celebrations were due to take on the 8th of May, and that might or might not be a day that we come out of lockdown, have we considered what we might or might not do after lockdown?
We haven't discussed that. Unless you want to make a comment to that, Councillor. As far as I'm aware, we didn't discuss that, but I think we could probably discuss the victory in Japan to take its place, perhaps. But I think that's up for the working group to discuss.
Yeah. I don't think we can discuss anything until I think we're ruled very much by the government and how things progress with the virus. I think once we know for sure, then we can definitely start discussing where and when.
Are we considering whether to put up the bunting on perhaps the weekend that we come out of lockdown?
Do you want to answer that, Councillor Miller?
I mean, it would be nice to. I can't see why not, but that would again. I'd need to talk to the town and community manager about that. But yeah, I can't see why not.
I think it would be a fitting event if and when we come out of lockdown.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I agree.
Okay, point taken. Thank you, Councillor Hamilton.
I think Councillor Hillier's got a.
Where's this one?
Just
Councillor
a
Hillier.
Sorry.
It was just on the numbering, just to make a note to change
Yeah.
that.
Okay, that's
Right.
fine.
No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Carry on, Councillor.
Okay, sorry. Okay,
Miller.
78 marketplace, 79 budget, 80 progress.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, Councillor Crook.
yeah. About the repair cafe, would they please reconsider about moving repair cafe from the over 60s club, because Councillor Eggleton and myself didn't think it was a suitable location because they will be making mess. And even when we come down from lockdown, people will want to have like more space. They won't want to be so, what's the word? So you have to get, but for like future. And I think on a practical note, the Scout Hut would be a much better location because people could park there and there'd be more space for people and they won't have to worry about ruining the carpet, which would be if they was at the over 60s. And also they could probably store some stuff at the Scout Hut, and I think it'd be a better idea if that's possible instead of having it over 60s, which I just don't think is going to be practical and manageable, because there'll be people with bikes and machinery that need fixing and just ruining the carpet for the over 60s. You know, it'd be a much better idea if we had it up the Scout Hut, which was Dave's idea.
That's fine. Do you want to respond to that, Councillor Miller?
I mean, I see where you're coming from. I think we're assuming that everyone drives, and I think the Repair Cafe is going to be probably quite a lot of local people wanting to walk in, and it is very central to Henley. But in saying that, I do understand where you're coming from. The Scout Hut has got the parking, it's got the space. I just don't know. I don't even know how we're going to be after this coronavirus. I mean, I think things might change altogether with people congregating in tight places. So I would be tempted to see how it goes at the over 60s club, and if it doesn't work, then perhaps could reconsider the Scout Hut.
Okay.
I think it's a sensible way forward. Let's use the day centre to start with. If it doesn't work, we'll consider the Scout Hut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Christchurch.
Okay. Carry on, Councillor Miller.
Moving on, the last one is the bus working group, item 81. I so move.
Okay, all in favour of those minutes? That's carried, thank you. Let's move on to the next one, which is the recreation and amenities from the 3rd of March 2020. If I can call on Councillor Hinton to move those minutes on pages 21 to 22 of your agenda.
These are the minutes of the meeting of the Recreation and Amenities Committee held on Tuesday, the 3rd of March. 66 apologies, 67 declarations of interest, 68 public participation, 69 donation of a Slovenian hayrack, 70 minutes, 71 progress, 72 budget, 73 use of Mill Meadows. On this final item, clearly this event needs to be postponed due to the current circumstances. I'm aware that a new date has been organised. Unfortunately, I don't know that date off the top of my head. However, I believe that as a council, we should be as flexible as possible with making sure that this event can be postponed if possible, rather than cancelled. So if we're able to have this on our land at a later date and be flexible with the organiser of the event, I think that's in the best interests of people that want to attend the event, our local residents that will need some relief when this is all over, but also our businesses that will need that much needed support of being part of that community event. So if we can be agreeable as a council, we need to obviously change the decision we made here because that event's now been postponed. So I propose what I just said.
Okay, thank you for that. You want to move the minutes?
I so move the minutes.
Okay, all in favour of those? Thank you, it's approved. The next item is the last one of the minutes. Item 4, Finance and Strategy Management Committee, 10th of March 2020. If I can call on Ian Reisman to move those minutes. And they're on page 23 to 25.
I'd like to present the meetings of the Finance Strategy and Management Committee held on the 10th of March. Item number 90, apologies. Item 91, declarations of interest. Item 92, public participation. 93, minutes. 94, finance. 95, expenditure. 96, grants.
Council, can I stop you there, Councillor Hamilton? Yeah.
95 expenditure. I spoke about this in the meeting. Can I ask whether the 3,000 has been paid to the Reading buses, given that this service has been suspended?
Can you answer Councillor Gavashak?
Or can I ask the town clerk?
Well, okay.
I mean, where are we at with this? Where are we at with this?
Let's just take Councillor Gavashak first. If he can't answer, we go to the town clerk.
The answer is that on last Thursday, the bus was terminated for two reasons. The few passengers that were getting on the bus, they were averaging about 10 a day, and also Reading buses costs. So therefore it was terminated, and as of that day, there will be no further payments made.
Right.
Can I just confirm, the question was from Councillor Hamilton, did we pay the £3,000? If
Can
you
I-
can't, can I go to Town Clerk?
Can I make the proposal that we don't pay
Wait, just a second. Let's see if it's been paid first. Councillor Gavashak. Councillor Gavashak.
The answer is, as I've said, the payments up until Thursday, Monday to Friday payments and the Saturday payments will be paid up until Thursday because they actually operated the service till then. From Thursday onwards of last week, there will be no further payments, whether the Saturday payments or the Monday to Friday payments.
Okay. Do you want to come back, Councillor Hamilton?
Yeah, so in line with what Councillor Gavashak has said, can I make the proposal that we pay up until Thursday as what Councillor Gavashak has said only?
You don't need to propose it because it's already happening.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Let's move on.
Item number 96, grants. This item is superseded by the agenda item that's coming up later in the meeting.
Okay, fine.
So those resolutions will become irrelevant. Item 97, staff training. Item 98, internal audit. Item 99, tree planting at Henley Town Football Club. Item 100, buildings maintenance programme. Item 101, Columbarium. Again, that is to be superseded by a full council agenda item later in this meeting. Item 102, exclusion of the public and press. Item 103, legal update, fair mile access, and again that's been overtaken by events, and we have on the agenda the approval of the final draft option agreement. 103 little b, 353, 357 Reading Road.
Okay,
104 Rugby.
Yeah, Councillor Hamilton.
353 Reading Road. Can I ask the Town Clerk to ensure that Councillor Ian Clark is invited to all meetings of 353? He asked me to raise that. Again, he's been missed off of one.
Deputy Town Clerk, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Ian Clark is always invited to the meetings. All the working group are always invited.
Okay, thank you for the reply. Carry on, Councillor Riceman.
Item 104, rugby club subleases. 105, salary review. I so move.
Okay, all in favour of those? That's carried, thank you. Move on to item 7, reports of other authorities. These will just be verbal reports this evening. They'll be on the District Council and the County Council. I'll call on Councillor Hinton first to give our report on the District Council. And
Okay,
I'll go to Councillor Gavashak.
I have made some notes, but I'll try to be as quick as possible. I haven't received any questions from Henley Town Council members.
That's probably because we didn't put a paper forward, to be fair.
Okay. SADC managed to respond really quickly to the needs of local residents as the coronavirus took effect across the district. They set up a completely new department called Community Support with a phone line running alongside the OCC NHS Shield line. Being a completely new department, I think it's fair to say the process has been very trial and error, continues to be slightly. And one of our COVID-19 mutual aid group steering group members was and continues to liaise with community support to improve the referral process. I think they probably learned as much from our steering committee as we have from them, so it's really partnership working at its best. I've tried, along with other SODC services, to update residents regularly using social media, particularly Facebook groups. With curbside collections of bulky waste cancelled, along with some other services put on hold, SODC via BIFA have been able to deliver a top service despite the corona outbreak. As usual, there were some collection day changes over the Easter weekend. They will continue over this week. This week, if your collection's due on Wednesday, it will be collected Thursday, and if your collection's due on Friday, it will be collected on Saturday, but they will be back to normal the week after. Food waste will continue to be collected weekly. We are not able to take on any new brown garden clients, brown bin, waste bin clients. Moving on to council tax, residents obviously received their new council tax bills in March. As the lockdown became a reality and everyone got really worried about not being able to pay their bills, I spoke with the head of revenue and benefits at SODC. He assured me that there's obviously a great level of understanding, and this has proved to be true, because anybody that has requested for their council tax to be deferred has had that done for them. And obviously there is a massive increase in the applications for council tax reduction. There is funding, 500 million coming from government to local councils to help with that increase. As members will know, myself and councillors Gavashak and Arlett were given £2,000 by the district council to award to local community groups dealing with the COVID-19 outbreak. I have £500 of this fund left. I do have applications in at the moment. I awarded £500 to the Nomad Food Bank. I awarded £500 to the Gainsborough Residents Association COVID support, and I awarded £500 to the Henley COVID-19 Mutual Aid Group. As members will know, I am a member of the steering group of that COVID aid group, but I do not have any decision making powers when it comes to the finances, so there is no conflict of interest there, and I just wanted to make that clear. If anybody would like to contact me about any issues regarding SODC services, my email address is on the website, and that's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Excellent. Councillor Gavashak.
Thank you, Chair. I'll give a combined report from SODC and OCC, because it is obviously to do with the coronavirus situation. Firstly, sort of a small but important issue, the Grays Road crossing has gone in. This is from the OCC, but because of the lockdown, we are actually waiting for some engineers to actually come and put the Belisha beacons on, the flashing yellow lights. And that's deemed to be non-essential at the moment, and it would actually cause harm to the workers. So we'll just have to wait for that, but the crossing's in and it's looking very, very good. As you can imagine, as Councillor Hinton has said, SODC and OCC have had to go through an enormous amount of work. People have been doing double shifts, they've been working at the weekend. Over the bank holiday, there were 60 workers across the authorities still working on issues at the county and the district, on helplines and primarily sorting out social services. Just as a thought, OCC are responsible for looking after 20,000 vulnerable people in Oxfordshire. And they are obviously self-isolating in their homes at the moment. So therefore, it has to be extremely careful how we contact them. But we've got to make sure that we give them the right support. There are 700 vulnerable children, and there are 7,000 vulnerable adults that are classed as health risks. So therefore, they have to be taken care of very carefully. There has been a concern in the county, I'll pop the NHS to one side, with regarding to PPE, personal protective equipment, in care homes and also for social workers and care workers visiting homes. And last Thursday, 62,000 items of PPE were delivered to the county on Thursday morning, and by the afternoon, 69 establishments were delivered the important PPE stuff. Now, The PPE still is a worry because it's estimated that we are still 60,000 items short on PPE for care workers and social workers and also care homes as well. And I can just assure you that the county are doing as much as they possibly can to make sure that we source PPE equipment for social care issues. So I will just leave that report at the moment. Thank you.
Would anybody like to ask a question?
Okay. Mayor.
Councillor Eccleston.
Yeah, go on, Councillor Eccleston.
Ren's in Henley, the 3D printing, they've been doing masks and other bits for NHS, I think, and other companies. There is another company which is local to Henley that have just been putting the extra bits to strap into certain stuff. If they can't deliver them, they are going to be delivered to the Royal Berkshire Hospital, I think, sometime in the next week. Because they did ask me if they couldn't get them all in their vehicle, I'd be up for delivering them to the Royal Berkshire Hospital.
Okay, maybe you could speak to Councillor Gavishek after the meeting, Councillor Egerton, on that one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
I've got nothing else to add actually to the reports, other than to say that all SODC meetings. I'll come back to you, Councillor Hamilton. All SODC meetings are cancelled until May at the earliest. Councillor Hamilton.
It's not really a question. I'd just like to add my thanks to Councillor Kelly Hinton and all the others that have got involved in the COVID-19 mutual group. I think this is something that we should minute as a council. The number of volunteers that have come forward across the town has been absolutely brilliant, and they've been brilliantly working on food provision, on getting medicines and looking after the vulnerable. And I think this has been a real community effort that's come together. And once we get past this horrendous virus, then whatever we could do for those volunteers and for all the hard work that's going in across the board is very important.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor. You're just echoing what I said at the start of the meeting. No more, Dave, sorry.
Okay.
No. So thank you for that. Okay, we'll move on to item 8, the coronavirus policy. Just is to ratify the policy. If I can just get the town clerk just to speak on it briefly, and then I'll propose that we accept the policy. Town clerk.
You have seen the many iterations of this policy coming through. This policy was obviously put together before the council could meet. Having said that, virtually all of the actions in the policy are dealt with under the scheme of delegation anyway. So there are no real items for the council to approve in the action plan. It is really for you to note the actions that have been taken by the staff and what is ongoing at the moment. However, if you have any ideas or suggestions, amendments to the policy, then they would be very welcome.
Okay, would anybody like to make a comment? Councillor Hillier and then Councillor Egerton.
Thank you. Yeah, looking at it, it's quite out of date now because it was the 24th before we had lockdown, really, the law come into to being. So there were quite a few references that were outdated. And I wonder, it's a lot of work for the town clerk to be doing and updating, because obviously it will keep changing. So I wondered if we shouldn't just adopt the LGA COVID-19 information for councils document, because that has been updated as of today as well. And that's in line with the Government Act 2020. So I just think we probably don't need this because everything for local councils is in with that document with LGA.
Would you like to respond to that, Town Clerk?
It's a very useful document, and it's a very useful reference document. And I think certainly for the first part of the policy, where it talks about the legal framework and the facts as we know them, then it's a very valid point. what I would say is on the actions are very specific to this council. Henley Town Council is far from an average town or parish council, and it is important that the action plan is written specifically for this council. The action plan was last updated, I believe it was on the 24th,
Yep.
that was updated in response to the lockdown situation. So it is the action plan is up to date as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. Councillor Eggleton, do you want to speak on that?
No, I just wanted to. There's a few people that ride their cycles quite fast along the riverfront on the footpath, and they've had a few complaints. And I was down there today and actually witnessed someone tearing along the footpath where there's children and other people walking along the footpath this morning.
Well, let's just stick to the policy rather than what's going down on at Mill Meadows. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Councillor Hiller, do you want to come back on that? And then Councillor Hamilton and Councillor Reisman.
Yeah, just briefly, there were quite a few points that weren't in line, and I think that they do need altering because the situation has changed in those 3 weeks.
Well, would you like to send the town? Yeah.
Yeah,
would you like to
put them down so I can just send it to the town clerk?
just send your items to the town clerk tomorrow?
Okay.
Yeah. Councillor Hamilton, then Councillor Reisman.
Can I make the suggestion that we agree what is proposed, but we leave the town clerk to add anything that he feels is necessary if anything changes in terms of the circumstances that the government is putting upon us?
I'm sure he will do. Yeah, thank you for that. I'm sure he will do. Councillor Reisman.
I'd like to second the proposal that we
Okay.
adopt this policy, and thank the town clerk for bringing it up. And I think the reason for doing it is that exactly as he says, that it is tailored to the specific requirements of the town council, whether it's the bus or the cemetery or all the other facilities that we offer, which aren't in the normal run of town and parish council. So I'd like to thank the town clerk for doing this, which I think he's right, it's a useful checklist, more than useful.
Your microphone's not working all that well, Councillor Reisman, and I hope you're not a helicopter pilot by any chance.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
That's better. Okay, thank you. So, okay, so I propose we accept the document. Thanks for the town clerk. Enormous amount of work in that short notice, and we'll update as we can. So I propose it. Councillor Reisman did second it. All in favour of that? That's agreed. Thank you. The next item is item 9, the annual meeting of the Town Council. Mayor Makin, to note the new legislation governing the annual meeting of the Town Council and recommend that it take place remotely and as scheduled. And I will so move that. Who would like to second? Councillor Reisman.
Yeah.
Anybody like to speak to that?
The actual wording which I suggested discussed with the town clerk earlier, that we thought was right, was that would be the annual meeting of the town council (brackets mayor making) be held as scheduled and be held online in accordance with the local authorities and police and crime panels. Coronavirus flexibility of local authority and crime panel meetings, England and Wales Regulations 2020. The town clerk has a copy of this wording, and I think I've sent it to.
Are you happy with that,
several
town
others
clerk?
as well.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Would you
Just
want
make
to
sure
move?
that we are legally watertight with what we're doing here, because mayor making is obviously an important legal requirement for us.
Okay, Councillor, if you want to move that, then what you just proposed, and I'll second that. Anybody wish to speak to that? Okay, all in favour of that? That's carried. Thank you. Item 10 on page 3, the Columbarium. Can I call on Councillor Miller to speak to that?
Oh yeah. I think you'll find, and I'm sure you've read through the attached reports.
Page 41 to 49. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Which goes into great detail, along with the tender comparison matrix, which indicates clearly, certainly to me, that the company that we should recommend should be company A, as stated in the agenda. 5.1, I would like to recommend that we appoint company A at 5.1. At 3.4 for the enabling work, subject to no other quotes being received by 20th of March 2020, following the advertisement of the contract on the contract finder's website. Also 5.2, that we give the town clerk, in consultation with the panel of 4.2 delegated powers, to appoint a contractor for the enabling works, should other quotes be forthcoming by 20th of March 2020, subject to a limit of £38,000. 5.3, to appoint company A on page 3 in schedule 1 to undertake the refurbishment of the first chapel into a columbarium with a cost of £130,080. And finally, 5.4, to allocate £58,000 from the CAPEX budget for 2020-21 to add to the brought forward earmarked reserves for the chapels of £117,260. £117,260.
Can we take all the recommendations on page 44 together? That's 5.1, 5.2, 5.3 and 5.4.
Yes.
If you wish to move all four of those, Councillor Miller.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
So yes, I do.
Seconder for that, Councillor Isaac. Who would like to speak to that? Anybody like to speak? No. Okay. All in favour of that? That's carried. Thank you. The next item, item 11, grants. If I can move this to Councillor Reisman. This is to receive recommendations on the allocation of the remaining grant funding for 2020-21. If we can take that one first.
This was originally discussed in the Finance and Strategy Management meeting on the 10th of March. And as I indicated earlier, events have rather overtaken those decisions. And so the officers have produced an upgraded grid separating off those events which are going ahead, a small number unfortunately, those events which are cancelled, and those for whom they might well be postponed and perhaps done next year. And so we have a proposal on the report which says that we approve them as recommended, but where the date and the nature of the activity varies due to the changes that we've had, and there are no major amendments, that the award continues to be made, and but where an event or an activity is cancelled, the funds are returned to the council. So I'll make a second proposal in a moment to make sure that we can continue to be flexible in allowing further applications to be made or changed. So I move as in 4.2 of the page 52 of the agenda.
Yeah, okay. Seconded for that. Councillor Hamilton, you seconded?
Yeah.
Councillor Hamilton seconded. Councillor Romans third. Anybody wish to speak to any of those items on there?
No.
No. Okay. Councillor Hooper.
Yeah, can I ask Councillor Wiseman, regarding Henley Town Football Club?
I think you may have to declare an interest on that, Councillor Hooper.
Yeah, but I'm not a chairman there anymore. But
I know, but you're still involved with the club fairly heavily.
Yeah.
So I think it's best if you keep quiet. Sorry about that. My decision, sorry. Right, as proposer seconded.
Would you like me to sum up, Mr. Arnott?
Well, you can't sum up. Councillor Reisman can. You can speak if you wish to.
I'll answer the question that wasn't asked, which is the Henley Town Football Club award is still a valid application, and we still approved it. Should it be able to take place, given the change in circumstances? So I hope that reassures people that where the awards are still useful and the circumstances haven't affected the decision, we are still awarding these grants as originally decided on the 10th of March.
That was a summing up, Councillor Hamilton. I'm sorry. All in favour of approval of that? That's carried, thank you. And the second item, councillor. Yes.
I'd like to make a
Mr.
second
Mayor, may I ask
proposal.
whether the meeting has taken place with the football club?
Wait, sorry, hold on, councillor Hamilton, go on first.
Can I ask whether the meeting has taken place with the football club? There was going to be a follow-up meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Has the meeting taken place?
Yeah, councillor Reisman, did you go to that meeting?
Yes, I did. I attended with several other people, Councillor Hillier.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, it seems like a long time ago.
Me, I
And
was
we
there.
were sat. Yeah, Kelly was there. Yeah, Councillor Hinton. We were reassured, firstly, that the governance of the club was secure, that the plans were clear, and it was very obvious that the club is in definite need of the improvements that they've applied for. So we were satisfied that yeah, this is a good application.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Good question. Right, the second item on that, councillor Reisman.
As I indicated, you know, we're living in a very changed world from where we were on the 10th of March, and things will continue to change, and organisations are already approaching us with real difficulties and challenges that the current situation is throwing up. And so I'd like to make the following proposal. That of the £5,000 set aside in the RNA budget for activities to tackle antisocial behaviour, up to 50% may be used by Nomad to support their food bank and other activities to tackle the COVID-19 crisis. So I so move.
I'll second that.
It's seconded there. Anybody wish to speak on that? No, okay, all in favour of that? That's carried, thank you.
And I'd like to make one final proposal on this matter, which is that the town clerk be given delegated powers in discussion with the mayor and chair of finance, strategy management, to make payments up to £5,000, totalling no more than £20,000, to organisations requesting emergency funding as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. I so move.
Second for that, councillor Eggleton. Councillor Hillier.
Can I just ask a question? What is the remit for the organisations? When you say organisations, is that just charities or what?
Would you like to answer that?
I suggest that it should be an organisation of the which qualifies in the way that normal grants are considered by. So they would have to exist in some sort of sense. There isn't a firmly written down definition. But yeah, they have to. It can't just be an individual who wants to do something. It has to be an organisation with some history and credibility. Perhaps the town clerk would like to comment on my description there.
Councillor Hamilton, then Councillor Hinton.
I'm all in favour of giving organisations, and particularly charitable organisations in the town, help. But I do think that it should be a cross-party group, not just the chair of finance and the mayor.
Councillor Reisman, would you like to bring somebody else in, or are you just happy with what you've proposed?
I'm happy if one of Councillor Hamilton, Plant or Clark wishes to put themselves forward as a third person, as a third consultee from the town for the town clerk.
I'm quite happy to put myself forward, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we put your name down. Councillor Hinton.
I was going to say that with our district money that we were given to hand out to the community, it was to organisations and charities that were specifically helping with the COVID-19 aid. So not people that had just been affected by what has happened, but people that are actively doing something in the community with efforts ongoing. So maybe that should be part of the criteria as well.
Okay, we're making
the wording does include that. It does say organisations requesting emergency funding as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. So that is the clear intention. Although,
well, no, because somebody might be in an emergency financial situation because of the crisis, but they're not helping with COVID-19 efforts at all. In which case, do they need the money when we're trying to give it to organisations helping locally?
Councillor Reisman.
I'd suggest leaving it the original wording. If, for example, we get an approach from an organisation whose which are not dealing with the crisis itself, but just had an increased workload as a result of it, then we might run foul of the definition that you're. I agree with the principle and that you're trying to express, but I'd rather leave the wording as it is, and remember what you're saying at this point, that we should be focusing on organisations that are dealing with the consequences of the crisis.
I'm happy with that.
Okay, Councillor Gabashak.
It's just to say that we've appointed the town clerk, Councillor Reisman and Councillor Hamilton, to oversee on behalf of the town council these issues. And if an application comes along that they're sort of concerned about, as Councillor Hinton has said, that it doesn't directly ameliorate the effects of the COVID-19 crisis, then I am sure that those heads will make good decisions.
Councillor Eggleton, then we're going to go for a vote on it.
Yeah, because what Kelly was going on, there's about 50 coordinators and about 1,000 volunteers that are working with the coordinators. They probably wouldn't qualify for any funding, but through when we get money in, we help them with the money that we've got if they need it.
Okay. Right. Okay. Last one, Councillor Hillier.
The town clerk was going to speak earlier, but then it went into discussion. I don't know if you still wanted to come back, town clerk.
Town clerk.
I think everything has already been said, so I'm perfectly happy with the arrangement and to have Councillor Hamilton obviously join that group.
Okay, so the proposal from Councillor.
Can I just make one final point, which is that while we have a group of named individuals who will be consultees for the town clerk using his delegated powers, we can discuss that with anyone who we feel is appropriate, whether it's Councillor Eggleton or Councillor Hinton or any other councillor who we feel would want to give their views.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So that's as the proposal, which includes Councillor Hamilton. All in favour? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you. Right, the last item on the open session is item 12, the internal audit report, which has already gone through the Finance Committee. Councillor Reisman.
I'd like to propose that we accept the report and congratulate the town clerk and the officers and other all staff for the excellent clean bill of health that we're continuing to get, with the two very minor issues being raised.
Second for that.
So I so move.
Councillor Romans. Yeah. Anybody wish to speak? Okay, all in favour of that? That's carried. Okay, that is the end of the open session of this full council meeting. I'd like to thank anybody that's been watching tonight on YouTube or whatever social medium there is out there. We're going to go into confidential sessions. I will propose to exclude the public and the press from the remainder of the meeting in accordance with the Public Bodies Admission of Meetings Act 1960, as matters which will be discussed are considered to be confidential. I so move. Seconded. Those all in favour? That's carried.